Harding? Well, I know Harding well. Come on, Mr. Dingle. We'll get to the bottom of this in record time. Hello.
Hello. Come in.
Harding, old man, how are you? Haven't seen you in weeks. So I want to ask you a little favor, Harding. I'm a very busy man, so if you just postpone whatever you're doing there and give me a few minutes of your time.
Well, I'd like to, but we're on a
I knew you'd understand. You see, a very good friend of mine has requested to put in an appearance here tonight. As a matter of fact, he's working with me, and we're very busy, so if you could... I forgot to introduce him. This is Mr. Dingle.
How do you do?
How do you do?
Mr. Dingle is... Constance. What are you doing here? What is it? What's the trouble? What's the matter? Speak to me.
Hello.
It's nothing to get alarmed about, Mr. Pendergast. Merely a routine investigation. You see, we received a wire report over the phone.
Yes?
We receive hundreds of them, usually mean nothing.
Well, I should hope so. I've known Miss Milligan for 6 years. As a matter of fact, she's in my department, and we're in... Carter!
How have you been?
Really, Constance, I'm afraid I don't understand.
Look, the whole thing could be explained if you just let Mr. Dingle speak.
Please, Miss Milligan.
Excuse me.
Now then, Carter.
Present?
Step over here, please.
Did you say that Mr. Dingle could explain?
You, Pendergast.
Yes?
You can talk after I'm through with Carter.
Well, what's Carter got to do with it?
Sit down. Carter was in Miss Milligan's apartment when we arrived. And he was in possession of these binoculars.
What was he doing with his binoculars in your apartment?
Now then, your address, Miss Milligan.
1708 D Street, apartment 2B.
Beg pardon, I meant Carter.
Burbank. It's 651 Sunnycrest, the house on the corner.
No, here in Washington.
Well, that's 6310 Munitions Building.
I mean your Washington address where you sleep.
Why sleep? On D Street, I think it's 1708.
1708 D Street, apartment what?
Apartment?
Apartment number.
2B.
I told you I thought you wouldn't understand, Charles.
But how could it be? I only introduced you to him tonight.
Well, I forgot to tell you we met before. It can all be explained. You see, I sublet half my apartment to help relieve the housing shortage.
To Carter?
No, to Mr. Dingle, and Mr. Dingle sublet half his half to Mr. Carter.
I'd like to believe you, Constance.
Well, you
Really?
believe Dingle, wouldn't you?
Yes, just ask Mr. Dingle. Mr. Dingle,
I beg pardon?
you've got to help us out.
Yes, Ben.
Of course, certainly. What can I do?
Well, Mr. Pendergast thinks that Joe and I...
Really, Constance? I don't know what you expect to prove now.
That Mr. Dingle was in the apartment all the time and rented half of it to me.
Yes.
What apartment?
Miss Milligan's apartment.
Has Miss Milligan got an apartment?
Are you kidding?
You know I have. You live there.
I'm sorry, but I live at the Wyndham James Hotel. Don't I, Charlie?
Of course.
You were over there with me this evening, weren't you?
Oh, yes, of course. They know I was with you.
Mr. Dingle, how could you?
I'm very sorry. I'd like to help out you young folks. But after all, there's no use lying when the truth is staring you in the face.
It certainly isn't.
If you were a younger man, I'd punch you right in the nose.
If you were a smarter man, you'd use your brains instead of your fists.
Come in. I'm sorry. I thought I was in my own office.
Major Denton to identify Carter.
Oh, yes. Come in, Major.
Are you Mr. Harding?
That's right. How do you do?
Hello, Sergeant. What's the trouble?
They think I was looking at the government printing office with those binoculars.
Well, were you?
No, sir.
We've already discovered that, Major. Now, if you're willing to vouch for Carter.
Certainly. He's here on special duty.
Oh, thank you very much.
Is that all?
That's all, and thanks for your trouble.
There's no trouble at all. Good night.
Good night.
You have your orders, Sergeant.
Yes, sir.
Well, I guess that about clears everything up, Inspector.
That's right. Show him out of it. Sorry if this has caused any of you embarrassment.
Embarrassment?
Mr. Dingle. Mr. Dingle.
beg pardon?
Did you or did you not live at 1708 D Street, apartment 2B? Talk! Tell him.
Tell what?
That you lived in my apartment.
Is that true? You did? You live in that apartment?
Isn't anybody brains enough to push this little button?
Joe. You.
What? What?
Our friend here's finally broken down and told the truth.
No, he has, huh?
Well, if that's true, Mr. Dingle, why didn't you say so in that room?
Yes.
Scandal, my boy. Scandal. A thing like this gets around like whoosh.
Oh, mean, contemptible, low down. Down, yeah.
Take me to the Washington Sun building. Let's go.
You'll have to wait. I gotta get a full load.
Taxi?
Mr. Dingle, surely you don't really think there'll be any scandal?
I don't dare think, Charles.
The FBI has a reputation for secrecy.
I know, but a lot of people saw them yanked out of her apartment in the wee hours of the morning. A thing like that's apt to ruin a man.
Ruin a man. What about a lady?
Yes, it won't do her any good either.
As far as I'm concerned, my boy, it's every man for himself.
Well,
Wyndham James Hotel.
I gotta get a full load.
No, you don't. No, you wait for me. I want to have a talk with you.
Go ahead.
I gotta get a full load.
All right, I'm a full load.
Taxi?
1708 D Street.
Now, see here, Mr. Dingle. If there's a scandal, you're responsible. You've put us all in a bad light.
I know, it was cowardly of me, but I can't afford...
You can't afford. You're going to Michigan tomorrow. I have to stay right here. I'm engaged to Miss Milligan. Our engagement is widely known. You get off scot-free by lying, and I'm right in the middle of things.
But you're a young man, Charlie.
I am a young man, yes, with a career that's just beginning.
Yes, by all means, let's protect your career. I don't matter. My position doesn't make any difference at all. It's the only Charles J. Pendergast. Don't you shush me. You've been shushing me for 22 months now. You've shushed your last shush. For 22 months, I've been engaged to a career, not a man. Here, perhaps this will relieve you of this embarrassing situation. Now, take your career and go run for cover.
Constance, maybe I was hasty.
You certainly were.
Then I apologize. Now, will you take back the ring?
No!
I'd think twice if I were you, Miss Milligan.
About what?
Well, in your position, you can't afford to burn your bridges behind you.
You mean by being engaged to Mr. Smug here, I can keep my respectability?
Not only by being engaged, but a quick marriage before the story gets out.
Then let it get out!
Look here, Ben, you're making a 5-alarm fire out of this thing. Nobody's going to hear this story unless you shoot off your big mouth.
Me? Joe, you're doing me a great injustice.
Hey, mister. You in the corner pocket.
Yeah?
You wanted the Washington Sun building, didn't you?
Yeah.
Well, there it is.
All right, pour it in there, please. Oh, me. In a dull night, I finally got a good story. Thanks to you, Mr. Pendergast, isn't it?
Yeah, Pendergast, Charles J., OPL.
Thanks. Yeah, driver. Got a deadline to make. Good morning.
Good morning.
Newspaper man!
Your friend just stole third base.
a million people in this town. That had to be a newspaper man in the corner pocket.
That's bad.
I'm sorry about this, Connie, but don't cry.
Who's crying?
She is. She got a perfect right to. Why not? Her name will be Mud by morning.
Well, can't
Oh,
we...
don't bother about me, gentlemen. Every man for himself.
I warned her about burning Charlie behind her.
Look, just don't bother about me because I'll give up. I'll get out of town. I'll go back home and be miserable.
Well, you started all this, Ben.
I know. It was cowardly of me.
If I didn't have to leave in the morning, I'd do something about it myself.
What would you do?
Don't be stupid. What could he do?
Telephone Charlie, get the ring, and use it himself.
Maybe engaged to Joe Carter while he's away.
No, married. Kill the scandal.
Well, that's preposterous.
Now, wait a minute. I only mean one of these in name-only propositions, that's all.
Well, I'd be willing to cooperate.
Cooperate? He wouldn't, would he? Well, that's mighty big of him.
Well, what's she got to be so huffy about?
What are you getting so huffy about?
I guess he wouldn't even be happy that way, would he?
Would you?
Well, if it's that way, what's being happy got to do with it?
What's being happy got to do with it?
Nothing.
Right. All it needs is a little teamwork. You two cooperate on a quick ceremony for the sake of all of us. Then an annulment is